Hey gang, this is Patrick, the producer of Emotional Sobriety, The Next Step in Recovery, trying my hand at a little sponsorship commercial for a product that I really enjoy. It's called Magic Mind. It has matcha that gives you energy, adaptogens that help you relax, nootropics that keep you focused, and honey that makes you happy. I'm not going to claim to fully understand what any of this shit means, but I have it with my coffee in the morning. As recommended, they say you're supposed to have it with your morning caffeine. And I liken it most to like an extra delicious wheatgrass shot. You chill it before you drink it, goes down super smooth, and I really enjoy it. You can find Magic Mind at magicmind.co. Give it a shot. Literally, let us know what you think, and onward to the program.
One of the great things I think about emotional sobriety is that it's really a path to really a true celebration of differences. Is that when I am operating from a place that, I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, you're not in this world to live up to mine, I can let go of any demands, requirements that you should feel or think the way I do.
Bill Wilson, co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, wrote in 1952, "If we examine every disturbance we have, great or small, we will find at the root some unhealthy dependence and its consequent demand." Wilson suggested that if we could identify and continually surrender these unrealistic and unrealizable demands, that we may then be able to accomplish what he imagined to be the recovery's next frontier, something he called emotional sobriety. Flash forward 70 years and join psychotherapists and best-selling authors Tom Rutledge and Dr. Alan Berger, who have taken up the mantle of exploring Bill Wilson's new frontier. Welcome to Emotional Sobriety.
It's a beautiful day here. Are you fall? It's fall. And it's more fall where you are, Alan. I know you've got, as a California guy, you are going to be loving the weather right now.
No, I really do. It's a beautiful day outside. It's like a crisp 68 degrees. The
leaves are changing color. They're
just starting to change.
Oh,
and it's just, and look, I can breathe the air here. I don't have to go out with a respirator on. I wear a hazmat suit when I'm in
That's
LA.
right. Details. It's so beautiful. I just know, now I know there'll be times where you're snowed in. In Nashville, we have the best snow because we have a snow and it lasts for a week at most. It's like so we're out. But it's like the friends I have up there where you are, it's like, it's all really beautiful at first, and then you check with them, a month later, and they're going like, no, we still haven't gotten out of the house yet. It's like the car's under the snow.
Look, I was prepared last year for that. I mean, I had my winter boots and I was ready to go play in the snow, and we didn't get much last year. It was a very mild winter, and I bought a toboggan and I bought all these
it's coming.
Tossers. So we're going to get it. So it's coming.
Don't worry. It's coming.
Ready for it. I'm ready. I'm going to lean into it.
Oh, your kids are going to love it too.
For my weather chime in, we had a dust storm the other day, literal dust storm. And I thought it was at first, I was driving around at night and I thought it was foggy, but I'm like, I live in a desert. Where's the fog coming from?
Yep.
So it was actually, just a layer of, I always compare where I live to the desert moon of Arrakis from Dune. Like kind of a slightly less shitty Arrakis. So that's been my life out here.
I grew up in West Texas, and we had these dust storms. It was just I remember you'd go outside and you could just see this wall of brown that was coming for you. It was like, it was the stuff of the old Dust Bowl days, but it wasn't, that severe. But it's like, and I do remember my mother always complaining that there was no such thing as ever being able to dust the furniture often enough, because there was always a layer of dust and everything, because we had no trees to block anything. It was just dirt blowing in and no just flat land. So.
Well, as far as emotional sobriety, this has been a very rough couple of weeks for me in terms of holding on to myself, but it's also been a this too shall pass type of deal, because the last few days in particular, as a consequence of just really grinding and doing the work, and trying to remain humble in the face of my many shortcomings, especially the context of, my relationship with my
Hmm.
partner, who's now living with me. It's I think I seem to have gotten through the storm chops, and things are going pretty good. But man, it's emotional sobriety is a journey, not a destination. That's for sure.
Yeah. There's always something more to do. And it's a little bit like dusting in West Texas. It's like you just can't do it. You can't practice it often enough. And I've heard, I've talked about this, but I know, Alan, you say this too. It's like, if you really want a catalyst for growth, be in a relationship. That's really, it is the best exercise for a relationship, because it will challenge you. And as long as you can keep framing it that way and remind yourself, or you let us know if you are losing that point, and we'll remind you again. It's like, but I promise you, as somebody that's down the line in relationship, is that, I told somebody the other day, I think some of what love is made of, when you get 30, we're 36 years into this, and I said, I think some of the love is actually made of scar tissue, of just some of the shit that we've been through. It's not necessarily that we just did it beautifully, or eventually got everything right, but it's just like we just shared the experience, and sharing that experience and sticking it out is a big part of that. So I wish you and Maddie both, and I hope she has a good support system as well.
Well, thanks so much, Tom. How you been, Alan?
Well, listen, before you go on to that, I'm reminded of a poem that Blake had. I believe it was William Blake, and he goes, "It is better to murder a child in its crib than to nurse unacted desire." He goes, "For whoever is not killed in love is dead meat."
I'm an English major. I never heard that poem. It's like that's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it's so violent.
It's just beautiful in
that
it just pops out. Yeah,
isn't it?
Wow.
I mean, it's whoever's not killed in love is dead meat. I love it. So, Patrick, we know you're not dead meat.
Oh, that's all I've ever not
That's
wanted
what
to
you're
be.
inspired to, right? I just
Patrick, how'd the podcast go today, Patrick? It's like, well, apparently I'm doing better than I thought. I don't know.
I'm not dead meat. I learned I'm not dead meat today. My God, what a day. Let's celebrate. Looking at life through an illuminated gaze is so different, isn't it?
It's impossible to take the slant we're taking, with emotional sobriety and recovery, and bigger recovery, but also 12-step recovery. It's impossible to look through this from a point of view of what we have to share and what we can teach, and not also be experiencing it ourselves firsthand. And it's like, and I think that's true for most everything. I always say that's one of the advantages of being a therapist is being a therapist, and being in other people's therapy sessions is never a substitute for doing your own work with your own therapist. But we do have this advantage of being in therapy all the damn time. Yeah. I mean, it's like we have this wonderful gift of being able to focus with people and to have these conversations. And one of them is about the perspective you're talking about, Alan, which is, and I was thinking about it on my pre-podcast walk with my dog Lucas just a few minutes ago. You are the one who's in charge of representing yourself in this, though. So be sure when we're talking about the things that are important to you, because that's a lot of what emotional sobriety is representing yourself in the most clear way, in the most specific way. And so beware that we are trained. I think as Western humanoids, we are trained to kind of learn by saying, okay, here's what emotional sobriety is, for instance, and we can give definitions. I think we could probably just do a podcast of giving a different definition. There's all kinds of angles on this, but we have that. But it's not just about trying to fit into that. It's about trying to say, okay, what does it mean to be really true to myself? What are, these are the value things. These are the things of what's most important to me, what matters to me most. one day when I'm no longer here, what do I want to be able to, what do I want people to say who are left behind? What do I care about what they say? And just really take responsibility I was thinking about, we use A's a lot: awareness, acceptance, action. But I also thought I put a couple of other A's in there when I was thinking about it today, and that was authority, my personal authority of my own life, and there was another A, but I don't remember what it was. It's like, but it is agency, just the idea that we take charge of how this is going to fit into our lives.
Well,
Now, I just launched on a bit of a ramble. So you guys tell me what it was I said that made sense.
One of the things that I think we want to clarify, because there's a tendency whenever people start talking about these things, is that we want to somehow turn them into absolutes.
Yes, that's it.
And into shoulds, right? I mean, like, right. I shouldn't feel this way. I shouldn't feel that way. And then we start to do, even with something as helpful and as incredibly powerful as emotional sobriety, we start to turn it into something it's not, right? And we apply some of this, our other consciousness, I'll call it, our old ideas, right? We start applying them to this new experience we're having. And one of the things we do is we want to throw everything into the same hopper, right? Or so to speak.
Right.
We should all feel this way. We should all believe in this, and we should all do this. And, one of the things that I'm so excited about in terms of our discussion today is that emotional sobriety has room for all.
Yes.
Everybody's welcome. It's inclusive. It's not exclusive. We do not exclude any particular philosophy, any particular ideas about your life. If they're working and they create, a freedom for you, wonderful. That's what the practice of emotional sobriety is all about, is creating a consciousness of freedom. So I thought that when you suggested this topic, Tom, I just think it is so important to take a step back for a minute and to open this up for people so that they don't start shooting on themselves with the emotional sobriety ideas.
Which is codependency, which is we give our power away to something sort of nebulous there. It's sort of like just to this concept of that. That's a really good way of saying it. It's like we go, we need to be aware of how we apply it specifically. And it's not just, how you said it in a certain way that I liked a lot. It was, it's not, but what I said was just not the broad strokes, but it's not, it doesn't all fit into one hopper. That's what you said.
I'm really enjoying, I'm starting to really work out again and try to really pay attention to my health and my physical conditioning. And so I've started to do some mitt work with boxing, right? With this guy that has this academy in Doylestown called Fight for Tomorrow. Well, he's a Stoic. I knew very little about Stoicism. I mean, I've heard you mention that you really enjoy Marcus Aurelius, and a lot of people see him as one of the early Stoics that really popularized the idea. And I wanted to read something from Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. And I just want to show people how so many different people talk about this from so many different angles. Right. And that's why when we say it's inclusive, it really is. I mean, I can pull quotes out from Gestalt therapists, from family therapists, from all kinds of people. So here's what Marcus Aurelius said. He says, yes, getting your wish would have been so nice. Yes, getting your wish would have been so nice. But isn't that exactly why pleasure trips us up? He goes, instead, see if these things might be even nicer. A great soul. Freedom, I put down emotional freedom. Honesty. Kindness. Saintliness. For there is nothing so pleasing as wisdom itself.
Yep.
When you consider how sure-footed and effortless the works of understanding and knowledge are.
Mm-hmm.
So he's talking about, well, how do we get that emotional center of gravity back into ourselves, right? And when we've talked, at length about this, maybe ad nauseum about it, is that when I expect things to go the way I want them to go so that I'm going to feel all right, it's a setup, right? What do they say in AA? Expectations are premeditated resentments, or resentments under construction. I mean, we've heard all kinds of sayings like this. Well, Marcus Aurelius really captures this thing. He says, getting what you want may make you feel good, but is that really what life is about? Is that really going to satisfy? Is that going to create the kind of relationship with yourself and with reality that really works for you, right? That works under any conditions, whatever. And I like the way that Tony Robbins said it. It creates an unshakable foundation to your life. Not that we don't get shaken at times, we all do, but we find a way to get our balance back.
Right.
And we find a way to get our balance back by going back to what's really important. And it's my attitude, my effort, my perspective, how I deal with what's going on and my disappointments, not getting my needs met all the time.
Right. Well, as a matter, that's the old thing. Our line in here is anybody can have a good day on a good day, and we should enjoy that. It's but I love, and Marcus, the meditations is, I mean, I have a copy of that book that I'm going to have to get another copy because I've written as many words in the margins as are written in the actual book, because it's so marked up and so used. But and Marcus Aurelius, the people that he learned from are wonderful to read as well. But I mean, the Stoics, to me, as I've been reading them, is like they're almost synonymous with AA. They're just, the more I read with them, I go like, oh, okay, well, I can almost find just what you did. I can almost find the line in AA that aligns with it. But ultimately, I mean, first of all, Stoics never miss an opportunity to remind you that we're all going to fucking die. It's like they just remind, but it's a good thing that they're reminding you of that, because it's like pay attention, step up. And the other thing is, it's about looking for meaning underneath, like what you're saying, rather than did you get what you want, what did you learn, how did you grow? And the cool thing about Marcus Aurelius's meditations is this is a book that he never wrote to publish for anything. This is his journals. These are things he wrote to himself, for himself, and it's full of wisdom, full of vulnerability. The things that it's like to realize he's just a person just like the rest of us. And you're absolutely right, but it gets us. I think what I got from that was hopefully what we're doing to make this more personal, more unique to each one of us individually, is we keep asking those questions about what's most important to me, and that won't be the same every day.
Yeah, I had a major breakup in 2013, and I probably drank and used over that and ruined my life for maybe like 7 years or 6 or 7 years. And what my organizing principle was at that point in time was, I need to be liked by this person, or I need to be validated. And the universe needs to give me this thing for me to be okay. And what I find appealing, about the things I picked up in early recovery, and then now moving on to a more emotional sobriety frame, is you can find something to sustain you that's not so contingent on maybe a bit of like what you were saying in the Aurelius quote, these pleasures, this kind of like, immediate gratification and validation, getting a cookie, that tells you, you're a good guy, and you are liked and likable. I think it's just in essence, for me, recovery is just, how can I survive this life? How can I find the will to keep going day after day.
Mhm.
And you realize at some point, if you're lucky, that you gotta dig deeper to find those things, because you're gonna, failure and heartbreak, that kind of
But see,
stuff.
that's
You're
it.
gonna get
Dig
a
deep.
lot of it.
That's at least that's in my mind as we're developing this, as we have this conversation. Don't think everything's going to go your way every day. Expect that it's not. He's very, very grounded in the sense that basically, these are my words, not Marcus Aurelius's words, but you get up in the morning, you're gonna meet with people who are assholes and difficult, and you're gonna run into problems that don't make any sense to you and that kind of stuff. And that's your job, to be the best human being in those conditions. And I love that idea that that's our job, just to be the best version of ourselves. And that's where it lines up with everything I think about with emotional sobriety. I think that, to me, if I had to come up with, just at least today, the most concise definition of emotional sobriety for myself, it would be to be the best version of myself that I can be. And that includes all the other stuff. It means expanding awareness to know all about so many other parts of myself, to have the humility to know that I don't know all about haven't met all those parts yet, but it's like, I know a lot of them. I understand the inner workings of that. I have a sense of who's in charge of that, who I am in the middle of all of that. But ultimately, it's me doing the best I can do. And this really helps me with when we live in a world, whether it be in your personal world, or whether you look at the world globally and say, okay, how can I be happy when all this shit is going on? That's how you do it. Yeah. You realize my goal is to be the best version of myself. And that's the ultimate measure of who we are, So I kind of think I started thinking about, they'll use those little tumblers to polish rocks. What I'm talking about. It's like I came to think not too long ago that maybe that's why the world is, we're in all the ways that it's wonderful but also screwed up. maybe the human experience is this tumbler, and we're just the rocks. They're in there, and we're here to experience this stuff and to become as beautiful as we can be. That makes that I can do that. See, I don't know how beautiful I can be today, but I can do my best to do that, as opposed, but I can participate in the greater world. I can still go vote. I can still argue about things. I can stand up for somebody who's being treated unjustly, all of that stuff. But ultimately, the measure is, did I do the best I could do at being me today? That fits for me, and it probably makes me feel as unshakable as I've ever felt in my life.
Well, listen, now we come back to what we've been doing on Thursday nights, is exploring emotional sobriety, the steps, and self-esteem.
Self-esteem, yes.
And that's, what you're talking about is a way to feel good about yourself, is a way to have esteem, right? Is to really have what I would like to call true pride. True pride.
Right. And I just want to keep sticking into the deeper part of that too, though, because there are other ways and I'm not saying they're bad things, because they're fine to enjoy, but it's like there are a lot of ways you can feel good about ourselves that are more superficial.
Yes. And this
you guys like me. That makes me feel good. I appreciate that. It's like, and it does matter to me, but it's like, that's not ultimately the point.
Yeah, that's right. Well, see, that's where, when we develop self-esteem, is we put, how do I say it? Is that we change the footing of our life, right? Is that it's not based on what's happening to us, but who we are.
Yes.
And that's what you're saying. It's, instead of focusing so much on having somebody's approval, getting somebody to like us, achieving this, achieving that, it's more focused. Not that those things aren't important. We're not being black and white here. And that's what this talk is about today. It's not about being black and white. It's about putting the emphasis on the right syllable. That being needs to be at least as important, if not more important, than having. If not, we're back to being out of balance. And that's what Bill kept pounding the drum about. It's about being in balance. So it's not like some of the strivings we had before were wrong. they were just so out of balance
Mhm.
that I had to get everything my way, that it had to be my way, that I wanted to be right, that, all those other things that,
Mhm.
that created a very unworkable, or Bill called it an impossible way of life.
Mhm.
And what we're trying to do is to bring ourselves back into some kind of balance.
Yes. It's about, well, and it get really, it gets, it's a grounding. That's another word that comes to my mind, is like, when I'm talking about people you talk about, including your example, uh, of relationship, Patrick, is sometimes with people in my office, what I'll do is I'll demonstrate different ways of doing relationships. I'll stand up and I'll lean as far forward as I can, holding onto the arms of a chair that has wheels on it. So it's like I'm leaning in such a way that if you pull the chair out from under me, I face plant. It's like, and first of all, you do that for a minute, talk about physical conditioning, you can feel your arms start to shake. It's like, it's a very tense place. And I think, and my point to people when I'm doing that is, that's how I used to have relationships. I used to lean so far into those relationships. Like my first marriage was such that this has to be just right here, or I won't be okay. I'll be gone. I won't. And then I plant my feet, and I, and do the stuff that you've contributed to that a lot, because you talk about that balance, and in some of your stuff, even when you talk about tennis and things like that, it's like, and I plant my feet, and then I lean out on the same chair, and it has rollers on it and stuff like that. So I'm not completely, I'm not completely safe. It's like, if you pull the chair out from under me at any given time, I'm off balance. I'm going to stumble, but I'm not falling. It's like that. That's what, to me, that's the picture we're talking about. Getting my feet under me and my legs a certain space between them, so that you basically have enough balance and enough groundedness, so that when things happen, and it's not if things happen, when things happen, you're going to be okay. But what I'm telling people is that we're not trying to get people to a place where they don't. And I think this is one of the mistakes people can make when we talk about don't give your power away and be controlled by what other people think of you. We're not saying don't care what other people think of you. Because that's
that would be impossible.
Well, that's counter dependence. We know people who do that, who basically, I'm not going to let myself care or be cared for, and it's a defense. It's a way of staying safe, so that I'm not going to be invested in anything. So that would be me in that same image, just standing stuck straight up and down, saying I'm not going to even touch the damn chair, But that's not what we want. We want it, but it's the deeper part. It's get those roots into the ground.
This is a practice.
Yes.
This is an ongoing practice of integrating some new principles in our lives. Principles that for most of us are quite foreign to us, that we weren't raised with these ideas. I was not raised with these ideas at all. No. I mean, my ideas was more that there was a strong, this is the way things are supposed to be. And I kept, that was the way I went through life is hoping, wishing, praying, manipulating that things would happen the way that they should happen. And secretly suspecting I was cursed. They would never really happen that way. And it's such a weird deal. I mean, such a weird thing. And then, for me, letting go of that has been where my freedom has really come in, my emotional freedom.
Yeah.
It really.
Think about that. It's like, I sometimes just realize I have a hard time even. It's such an experiential, such a visceral sense when you say that. I'm going to go, okay, I know exactly what that is. How do I describe it? You've done that a couple of times with this today, where you get to something, you go like, okay, I got it, but now I got to put words to it. It's a simplicity for one thing. It is, this is where it begins. And and when I lose touch, this is where I always need to come back. It's like, because when I gave that example, I'm not saying that I can't find myself, within the next couple of days face planted somewhere because I've leaned too far into something, and have fallen. It's like, okay, but what I know is the practice of that is, okay, what do? I always tell people like, in terms of recovery, it's amazing how often whenever we mess something up, we have the saboteur in our head that always has what I call the lie of compartmentalized time, so that if you mess up at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, well, we'll start tomorrow. If you mess up, on a Thursday, well, we'll start on Monday. If you mess up, in late October or November, we'll start the first of the year. It's like, I just say it this way. I say, if you actually were walking down the street and you fell down, would you just stay there until the next day? I mean, it's like,
well,
no, get back up, get up.
Your metaphor of the rock polisher. I have the habit, I think, of, I think we're always in the polisher. And I think I have the habit, the expectation that, I'll be stepping off into tranquil zone. And, I won't be living my life. I can kind of coast on autopilot for a little bit and everything's going to be perfect. And then when the creeping, what mistakes or shit happens confronts me, then I feel like I'm doing something wrong, when in actuality we're constantly polishing. And
in that metaphor, for me anyway, the tumbler is the human experience. It's like, period. It's like, it just is. Now, whether it's gently tumbling us on a particular day, that's beyond our control too. It's like, but I love what you're saying, because that's the kind of fantasies that get us in trouble. And these kind of discussions can help us kind of pinpoint. It's the power of metaphor. It's like you pinpoint. Oh, I guess I get that, and I was thinking I was taking a break from the tumbler. I'm going to get out and not sit over here on the table for a while. It's like, and you're going like, oh, doesn't work that way.
Well, would you say, I mean, a lot of what you're talking about, you mentioned at the beginning, what's actually important, and then paring away kind of all these things that maybe we once thought was important, or we once thought would be sustaining us, and then realizing they're actually not sustaining us. And,
well, or they may, and that's another piece too. That's it's a good idea to have some sense of developmental psychology as well. Is like, we often, when we talk about developmental psychology, we end up talking about child development stuff, but developmental psychology goes through our entire life. And the truth is that, we want to teach kids. We want to teach our kids, the stuff about personal integrity from the very beginning and that kind of thing. But in terms of looking at your own life, in terms of what's most important to you at different times in your life, or I'll speak for myself, at different times in my life, different things were more important than they are now. There are times where when I was a younger person and beginning my career, and then I had, you always say like, oh, relationships should always be first. Everything should be. It's like, not necessarily. It's like sometimes there were times in my life where the pursuit of my career was an appropriate thing. It's good. It was also good that I not be hurting other people, but mistreating people. But there was nothing wrong with that being a value of mine. It's about being clear about what your particular values are at your particular time in your life, and this goes back to emotional sobriety. Is as you know, Alan, I've realized I've been writing about emotional sobriety only through spending time with you. I realized that I didn't have some of the language, but it's like it's been very validating to me to realize, oh my God, this is another way that I was getting to it. But it was about living congruently with that value system. Yep. And what matters, and the truth is, what matters to me today, it's at 68 as I'm sitting here. It's like it's different than it was when I was 48.
Very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. And that's the other thing we want to say. So when we say, look, when you're an adult or when you achieve emotional sobriety, the only reason to do something is because you want to or you don't. Well, we don't prescribe to you what your want is. That's it. One of the great things I think about emotional sobriety is that it's really a path to really a true celebration of differences. Is that when I am operating from a place that, I'm not in this world to live up to your expectations, you're not in this world to live up to mine, I can let go of any demands, requirements that you should feel or think the way I do. And see, now that gets challenging at times, because there's some ideas out there that, I don't like. We've talked
Mhm.
about it before.
Yep.
Where politics crosses over into this, and how do we now deal with some of our brothers and sisters who think so differently than we do, and we have a hard time seeing their point of view and feel threatened by it or whatever it is. But that's the challenge. How do we deal with these things, right? How do we cope with them? And how do we find our center of gravity, so to speak, in the midst of a lot of things that can seem quite crazy, right?
Right. Well, and just to play with that just for a minute is, and I think I probably learned this image more from you than anybody, Alan, is once I have that center of gravity, because how do I hold on to it while I'm interacting? Is because I mean, I think dealing with it's just the polarization politically is just an easy metaphor, because or example of that, because it's really easy to be very grounded in understanding your own value system, but then if you get and talk to somebody else, we can get thrown off balance so quickly. It's like we lose it. And see, I think one of the things we're talking about here today is I think one of the explanations for that is if I'm talking to Patrick and he and I disagree vehemently about something, there's a part of me, if I'm not careful, that begins to shift and invest my self-esteem needs in terms of I need to win this argument. I need to make this point. I need him to respond in a certain way for me to get this. It's like how, because I see people who've been married to somebody. I was talking to somebody yesterday that's been married to somebody for 25 years. And she say, well, I just need him to understand so-and-so. It's like, I can tell you from knowing these people, it's not going to happen. They could be okay. She could be okay, but it's not going to happen because, that person is going to change their position.
I've shared with both you and Patrick. One of our fans is Marina, and she shared with me the work and the blogs from Heather Cox Richardson, a history professor at Harvard, who has an incredible perspective on the political tension in our country. And what she has helped me see is how these issues that we struggle with today, even in our current culture, right? Our current climate, our current, political climate, have such deep roots to the beginnings of this country. And I used to be quite critical of the other side, right? I mean, look, I've alienated a few people in especially my brother and my family, who's very much a right and conservative person, and we've had our differences, and I've struggled with those differences and criticized his position, and he's criticized mine. And what I'm starting to get to, which is helping kind of ease the conflict for me, is both sides are important. Is you can't have the left without the right. You can't have the right without the left. And that there's something about when things are polarized, there's an important dialogue that can go on in the middle of trying to deal with those differences. And it isn't pretty. We're not really good at dealing with our differences and respecting the other side, and that which makes it even harder. But there is an importance, right? Day is defined by night. Night is defined by day. I mean, kindness is defined by cruelty. You can't have kindness without the other side. There is some value to these things. And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to suggest that as a whole topic one time for our emotional sobriety. But the fact, these polarizations and these different poles of issues are very, very important, I think, for the evolution of consciousness. And we will get more into it. And when I start to see it from that way, it takes a little the sting out of what it all means right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like I can put it into a bigger context, that this is evolving. Today is not the final chapter being written on any of these things. This is just one paragraph, maybe one sentence in the chapter that's being written. The big chapter in the sky, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to be decided now. It's not. It's a continuous unfolding. And look, one of the things I love about our country is we're free to have the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I thought a bit of you guys, and I think I did learn something from, our evolution together. And quite a bit of crazy political shit has happened since we've started this show. We've even talked about it on a couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, I'm on a text thread with some friends, and I was sending them some catastrophizing news type stuff. And my buddy texts me. He's like, "Man, you need to lay off some of these YouTube videos. I think it's bad for your health." And I immediately, or bad for your mental health. And after that initial kind of rush of, you fuck, I'm the most healthy person, and I'm just, and you need to learn about this now, I thought about it for a sec. I sat with the thought, and then I replied, you know what, you're probably right. I think it was the exact right thing to say, because he was right. I can feel change over time, evolution and perspective. And if you're humble like that, I think that people listen to you more.
Yeah, but let me say this, because I think this is one of the main themes that I had when I did my little ebook on therapy for politics is the idea is the very same. We live in our culture. I think we've tended to think that we deal with these outside situations, especially politics, religion, stuff like that, in some kind of different way than we deal with our personal selves. It's like, but it's like, it's the same. It's like, it's just more, I think about your ripple effect. It's like, so basically, and so what I'm thinking actually, Alan, because what you said about that as a topic, it might make a good idea to have it next time or soon, because we're talking, one of the things we're talking about today is there's room for all is the topic we're saying, and I hope we're doing a good job of making that point. The other thing we're back to is one of my favorite concepts from your most recent book, which is holding on to yourself. It's like, so once we have that place, that's what Patrick just gave an example of, is basically holding on to himself, feeling the wobble, when something would have thrown him off, but his feet were under him, and he held on to it. So he held on to that, and it just was the next response. It wasn't. See, that's the other thing, is we get out of this idea. What you said, Alan, is let's put this in perspective. We're not going to change the world today. I'm not going to change the world by this conversation. What I can do is the exact same thing we're talking about with Marcus Aurelius. I can be the very best version of myself that I can be today. And that doesn't mean I abandon my beliefs. It just means I remain respectful and kind and realistic. And so to me, holding on to ourselves, getting that balance, holding that, and then realizing we're getting ready to, if we step into a political world right now, it's treacherous, because probably always has been, but it's like, at this point, what we know is that it's very easy for a lot of us who have very clear, strong beliefs to get thrown off and possibly face plant. And it's like, what we want to be able to do is stay, like you said, we want to stay in the conversation.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to just throw it in there. You don't talk much, Alan, about your more right-leaning brother, but I have a friend. One of my best friends is kind of like a right-leaning guy. I'm a leftist, and I think some perspectives deserve condemnation. But when you're talking about individuals or like loved ones that are close to you, and you've made the decision that this is one of my people, he's in my life, and then the conversation isn't so much about the perspectives. It's like, how can I, if you made the decision, this person's in my life, I just need to figure out a way to deal with that. Then it's the expectation can't be, at least the main consideration can't be, how do I bend this person to
right, well,
accommodate my point of view,
and it goes back to, that's perfect, Patrick, because it goes back to what Alan was saying. It's and it goes back to our topic of inclusion. It's like, it's what I want. It's like, quite a while ago now, but a few years ago, my friend Tom Wellfelt, I told some of my Hawaii story and other things about, had died of pancreatic cancer. He was very much a right person, of the GOP person, and he and I, we had some other friends that were, in conversation with us, and they basically would just ask us to shut up if we started to talk. They were very good about like, quit doing that. But ultimately, Tom and I, we decided consciously to just drop the subjects because we love each other. And we know we love each other. And it goes back to the word want, Alan. It's like, it wasn't so much, it's like, oh, I'm just here. I'm going to have to, I didn't have to stay in a relationship with him, and he didn't have to stay in a relationship with me, but we wanted to, and to this day, because I've gone through the process of losing him, and I was texting with his wife just yesterday, saying that how I was still missing him. It's like, the history of that relationship, our political positions have nothing to do. Our relationship on earth together is over, because he's gone. But that place that really has no part in the stories that I would tell about that relationship.
And the best way you can advocate for your point of view is it's the way you live your life. It's what you do, not what you say, I think. And I try to remember that.
Attraction, not promotion, man. It's like we're right back. You see, again, whatever is wisdom is going to show up, whether it be Stoicism, whether it be 12-step recovery, whether it be Christianity, whether it be, anything else. It's like the wisdom is going to be there because that's what we're seeking.
Yes.
I love this.
Right on. Well, good discussion, gents.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I'm cool with it.
I can't stand the idea you have about this. Oh my God, it's terrible.
it's like we should do one like that. Maybe we should.
Let's do a non-emotional, like an unbirthday. Let's do a non-emotional sobriety event one time.
Or I could just record my cats fighting, and we could just publish that.
We could have that in the background the entire time while we're talking. It's like no, that would be fun, Alan. It's like, it's because it's that therapist who missed the point thing. Like we could just say, okay, if we didn't have we'll have the non-emotional sobriety podcast.
But we should include the therapist who missed the point on it. Oh, that should be a segment on every show. The therapist who missed the point. We could do a little 5-minute segment on that on every show.
We could do that. We could probably just write little scripts for that. That would be fun.
Every time the therapist.
All right.
It'd be fun, you guys. Listen,
that's a good way to start.
I had so much fun with you guys out here. I know. I gotta tell you, man. We need to figure out how to do that again. But I'm serious about. In September, I don't know if you were included on this dialogue, Tom, but we're thinking of doing an emotional sobriety weekend, like an AA convention, only it's going to be an emotional sobriety, symposium, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get a permit so people can camp in my backyard. We're going to build a little stage out there, get some porta potties, and have you and some other people that want to come out. We'll be speaking during the thing. There'll be music. There'll be meetings, emotional sobriety meetings.
Have you talked to Jess about this?
I did talk to her about it.
Okay.
We agreed to it. So
all right.
We're going to shoot for a little bit later in September, so it's not so hot.
Great.
And we'll have a lot of fun.
Oh, I'd love it.
I'll be there.
That would be just too cool. And we'll all do the chicken bop
with Cece.
She'll be grown beyond that, though. She'll be doing something much more sophisticated by next September.
Tend your life, tend your myth, cultivate your narrative with whomever you're with. Then with glass in hand and children on one knee, bring some stories, bring your stories back to me. It ain't a crime to be a human. Never be ashamed to be yourself. Rest assured that whatever you're doing will entertain me like nobody else. So here's to us, my old friends, until it's time to drink the wine and break the bread again. With glass in hand and children on one knee, bring some stories. Bring your stories back to me.